Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. When I woke up this morning, God was sharing with me a concept that He would like me to introduce to you. The basics of this concept is that if you can think of a situation that God can't overcome, then He's not God. And I'm not talking about Him snapping His fingers and just having it disappear. I'm talking about Him putting together a plan and overcoming it with the resources that are available to Him, using His own intellect and strength to overcome anything. I know that in my life I have experienced pain and suffering and illness, and I can remember just recognizing how impossible of a situation it was, and yet in order for God to be God, He would have to have been able to overcome that. There is nothing God cannot do. And if you remember from my previous videos where I've talked about how when God made you, He took a little part of His matter, a little part of His intelligence, and a little part of His power, and He combined them together to create your life. And that means that a part of you came from God. And if you find that part of you, you find the God within you, the part of God that's within you. And so what that means is there is a part of you that can overcome anything. No matter what you face, there's a part of you that can overcome that. I've heard the expression, what would Jesus do? And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about what would God do. I'm talking about if you find the ability to speak with God, if you look inward and you find God inside you and you talk to Him, that He can guide you through anything. There is no sorrow, there is no pain, there is no suffering that is beyond what God can deal with. And I know that within life, we can experience some things that would just, for us, it's impossible. But for God, it isn't. And I'm not talking about God snapping His fingers and taking your problem away from you. I'm talking about you trusting God with your life, trusting that God knows what's best for you and has a desire to see you grow. This one life, this part of mortality that we're experiencing right now, does not adequately describe all of you, the entirety of you, past, present, future. God sees all of you, not just present you. He sees where you've been, and He sees where you can go, what you can become. And so as you approach this, as you learn to find God inside you and figure out how to overcome everything, remember that this life was designed for a greater purpose than this life. There are horrific things that happen on this world, that happen in earth. It is hard to imagine that some of the horrific atrocities that have been perpetrated upon others could possibly serve a purpose. If there is a person that's beyond, if there's a spirit that revels in torturing other beings, wouldn't it be appropriate then for them in order to understand the atrocity of doing such a thing? Wouldn't it be appropriate for them to live through that? Wouldn't it be appropriate for us to be in a situation where we are faced with our lack of compassion or lack of understanding of suffering? There are spirits that don't understand suffering, and so they have to live through a mortal experience of suffering. I know that doesn't, I hope that makes sense. And I hope it doesn't take away the horror of what people have had to experience. It's not meant to. I'm not trying to lessen people's suffering. There is a question what God would allow this to happen, what God would allow people to behave in such a manner. And there are people that are atheists because they can't believe that there would be a being out there that's all powerful that would allow human beings to do some of the great evil that they've done. It's important to just step back and realize that God's looking at a much bigger picture than we are. That doesn't justify some of the atrocities that have been committed, but it does lend light onto why perhaps those things have been allowed. The goal is for us to live through this life and then grow from it. And there are evil beings out there that have done evil things who may only learn by experiencing evil being done to them. That's just an idea, something to think about. Now, back to the idea God wanted me to share today, wanted me to introduce today. There is nothing, if there is no situation God can't get out of, and God is inside you, and you are able to establish communication with Him by looking within and finding Him inside yourself, then is there any situation that you can't overcome? One of the things that I've come to understand is the effect that a bad attitude can have. You're not going to even try if you have no hope of success. You're not going to make an effort unless you believe that that effort matters. And maybe that effort really doesn't matter at work. Maybe you are on this wash, rinse, repeat cycle and it seems like nothing you do matters. But it matters. It really does matter. Because if you see it as being something that matters, then it matters. It matters to someone because it matters to you. And so don't give up. Don't stop trying. Hard work, effort, a good attitude, these are things that can help you overcome the obstacles that you face in life. And I want you to know that heaven is there to lend aid. Heaven is there to help you to achieve what you came to this earth to achieve. I'm trying to be really careful with my wording there. Heaven sees the full plan. There's another concept I want to introduce to you. The law of consent is one that can't be violated. Every person that chose, every being of light that chose to be born into this world consented. God knows the end from the beginning. And if you look at the microscopic portion, you look at a single life over and 80 years seems like a long time, but when you look at 1,000,000 years, 80 years is a blink. And God can see what that 80 years would be like. God can take all the information, all the data that's available and predict what will happen. And so before you were born, before you entered that body, you were shown what life would be like for you, what your life could entail. People make choices, and they make choices that surprise us and are different than what we expect. But if you account for what could possibly happen and then you consent to still come live this life, why would you look at the situation you're in, look at the problems you're experiencing, look at everything that you're looking at with your life saying, this is awful, I can't handle it. Ask yourself this, why on earth would you have consented to it? Unless there's something you knew about yourself that you have forgotten. I would love to see a world where there is no suffering, where there is no pain or sorrow. And I know God would love to see a world like that too. I know God lives in a world like that. But this world, our earth, it can also be a world like that, where we don't have the suffering, where we don't have the pain, where we don't have the mistreatment of each other. This world can be something wonderful if we will choose to make it that way. Thank you for listening to this video. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with me.